You know, life is interesting. This morning, I was in the bed for perhaps 20, 30 minutes, maybe longer, but reflected on many things. My mind was clear and I felt good. The conclusion is many conclusions. One is passion. I remember talking about that subject, empowering myself, empowering others. I had the model. I was a consultant, so I was talking about how we may make a change and continuously improve with the idea of CAPD, check, act, plan, do. Not PDCA, not plan first, but check first, act, plan, and do, and continue doing it. Anyway, it was a seminar, the one that I remember the most was in Portugal. Someone invited me, I forgot his name, did some seminars a few times, and I talked about this passion. Passion followed by challenge, challenge followed by going beyond the conventional wisdom or belief. And the fourth step was awakening, satori, or enlightenment. Come up with the breakthrough moment. So those four elements are important. Again, the passion, challenge, beyond the conventional belief or the wisdom, and over, you get the breakthrough. So in that breakthrough moment, there's sincerity and truthfulness. Those are the ones that I often talk about. Be sincere and truthful. And the energy would pop up. The challenge and breakthrough. It's a continuation of that. And then the fifth step is temme, the order from heaven. By going through that, you connect to the order from heaven, like thy will be done. I have my will, but that will can be aligned with the will of the universe beyond my belief. So it's knowing the mission of life and continue living. And the sixth one is happiness, being in line with that passion and the challenge beyond conventional belief or wisdom, satori, and having a mission in life continuously, being sincere and truthful, then that's the life of happiness. I did that in Peru too. Maybe that was the first one, and I think I have it in the presentation form, PowerPoint, even in video, if I'm not mistaken. They took the video, and I think I posted somewhere in YouTube. Anyway, those are then, but I'm revisiting. And this morning I came up with the idea of the passion being most important, because if I don't have that, I don't have the energy. The passion is energy, energy of life, and if you don't have it, find it. And maybe that's what happened from yesterday, going through, flying from Japan to Hawaii, Honolulu, and finding this condo and have some difficulty of getting in, the router problem because I couldn't access the internet, the Wi-Fi, still cannot. And I checked all the possible avenue, and I still don't have the answer, except I have the answer that there's a library nearby, so I can at least access and I can prepare to post the video by recording like I'm doing now. So there's a way. If there's a will, there's a way. And that is based upon the passion. And that's the most fundamental thing. Other than that, I had lots of ideas. Let me just ramble, maybe without taking too much time, but it's kind of good to remind if I can. And if there's passion, maybe I can access that thought, some of that. Maybe I'll start with this one. We talk about living in the now. So why am I talking about things in the past if I want to live in the now? There's a paradox, right? But living in the now is not just like an animal living in the now. Human being in the living in the now state is that I can access the memories in the brain in the now, right? So you're not just an animal chasing this and that and don't utilize the memories in the past. So living in the now with the brain we've got, we are to use it, and we can use that by being in the now instead of not using it. If we use it, then it's CAPD, check, act, plan, do, and as well as Shila Samadhi Panya, because when I revisit those memories, it is in the now. And that happens by being calm, quiet, no mind, no self, and no ego. And in that state of samadhi, being in the now, right? It's the absolute state of being in the now. I utilize this idea of Zen Kiken, fully utilizing the talent I've got. And I have those memories somewhere in my body and the mind, so I can access being in the now, and that moment, my history is in the now. So the stories I thought this morning is not, well, you can call it the lucid dream type of thing, that one memory after the other passing by, like a cloud in the sky moving in my mind at the moment, being in the now. I'm aware of it, as if I'm experiencing it at that moment. By being in the now with that memory at the moment, I can synthesize what the message is. So this is a tricky part, if I can explain. I don't know if I explained this before, but it is like this. I think I mentioned about my being here growing. It's like a tree growing, as I shared recently and in the past, tree analogy of life. But it's getting more holistic than just a tree within myself, but among the trees, meaning other people and other living being out there. And what's the relationship? let me try the best so that I can explain. So if I have in my mind and body space those memories and I can access in the now, they speak to me. Me being, I don't know, the entity scanning those memories. So it's not the ego-centered way, but just the being in the absolute state of looking at the memories of all the past. I'm in the now, in that state of samadhi, as if moving clouds telling me different stories. And that stories if I can synthesize, it is as if this tree of me growing, not just looking at within, but also other trees without ego, but calm and quiet mind. This morning I was in that state and I could jump around, but at ease, so that I don't have a hang up, but just the essence of the memories was passing by, as if. So I was trying to capture some of those passing by memories, and let me start with this one. Things may look convoluted, but possibly I can communicate. I'm a tree among the trees, and me experience my moment with the other trees. And this example is when I was meeting my friend from high school days, 60 years ago. And that event happened 5-6 days ago when I stayed in my friend's condo with other 3 guys and discussed this and that. So it's like a tree talking with other trees, me talking with other people. In that moment, I had a difficulty of communicating my message with one of the friends. And I tried but couldn't succeed. And I gave up because I couldn't go forward to make a point. At that time, I thought, well, what's the point? Let's be quiet. I was disappointed that I couldn't communicate or he couldn't receive. But that's what it is. Tree to the other tree, a person to the other person. We may influence other, we may not. We may be resonating and communicating, or maybe not. So, if I say it this way, I didn't think about it when I was in the bed, but I could think that when we have the passion, which is genuinely welling up from the root of who I am in this me tree, me as a tree, and it is to express as my branches and sort of optimizing to orchestrate this space so that my action of living truthfully, sincerely, with passion can be always being in the play, in the now. I think that's the right statement. And for that reason, at times I set the branch in certain area, I put my energy. may be left alone and move into the other direction. It's kind of balancing out, optimizing, kind of like a middle way, not to the extreme, but to the area that is needed at that moment, at each moment, because that's life. So 4 or 5 days ago, I had that meeting and I became quiet. I didn't think much about it because I didn't want to think, but I stayed with that thought. I often say sleep in the moment, meaning not to think much more about that subject. Not making a decision is what I mean. Meaning, leave it alone. I sleep on that subject, or something like that. My English may not be right, but leave it alone on this subject of that meeting. And after 3 days, second days, third days, I thought, well, I may not come see them again next year, or maybe even forever. That sounds like too much to say. But those thoughts pop up. And I, again, didn't make a decision. Why make a decision? Because it's just a thought. It's just a cloud. But I was a bit surprised. But again, I left alone, not making judgment. And further time passed, and I became more clear that balancing out my life and the tree, not to go to the extreme. And the branch, you cannot hang on to it if you have other branches. And if there's an energy level that is to be expressed to fully alive and fully utilize who I am with all the talent and history, even DNA, that's another thought. And if we think deeply at the root, connecting to the root, even the DNA may change. Wisdom, compassion, those may come out, but down deep, if we are practicing this passionate life energy to be present and be able to process it without making premature judgment with the self, ego, but with no mind. Information, it's there. Let the information to talk. Don't let my mind to push to the conclusion. I use the word procrastination. It's not bad. So that you don't make the premature judgment. And I have a thought and shared that in the case of Ben Franklin, saying that when you can do things, you do it the day. I said that may not be the case. And then later I talked about and shared the Einstein's quote saying that he said, I'm not a smart person, but I stick with the question longer, or something like that. And that's the spirit, not making judgment prematurely, and stay with it, with the energy that you have, with the accumulated experiences somewhere in my existence, in that tree, in the memory, and utilize that in the moment is the way of making judgment. And for that, sometimes you wait, sometimes you make judgment. So, long story short, I don't know if that makes sense to use that sentence, but the point here is about my friend. I thought, okay, here is the conclusion after 6 days or so. And the conclusion is, I'm not going to conclude, but I'm getting almost there, that next year, if I could come to Japan again, as I usually do, with those 4 people meeting, I suggested for 4 of us to meet because of the background, and that was very interesting. And I got the mail that all 3 people are happy and wanting to do the next year, but I haven't responded. I didn't feel like responding for that reason I mentioned, and my tentative conclusion is, no, I'm not gonna go through that again. Why? My passion is not there. If I cannot communicate something, I let go. And let go and let go and let go. And I may still go, but at the moment, again, I'm not making decision, but temporary decision is I have to realign my space of tree growth. This branch can wait and move on to other branches. So it may sound like a correction of the course of life. That is what it is. And I have done it. That's another thought this morning I had. I reflected other events that I made mistake or whatever happened, the decision was made, and my life changed. Some of those were painful, some of those are quite good, and that's like a certain branches can work well, certain branch cannot because of some conditions I didn't think or it happened for that moment at the moment, so that you have to shift. So life is the continuous process of shifting energy as needed. And if you can maintain the same energy and direction, that's good. But it's like the case of the sailboat. It's not the stable mountain and climbing and figuring out what to do given the setting, because the setting changes. The wind changes, the current changes, you change, and the boat itself changes. So you have to navigate your life accordingly, not fixed idea. Mind be flexible, always at the samadhi state as much as possible, and even think back all of the memories, pertinent memories, important, so that I can synthesize, make sense of it. So I'm an integrated being with that process going on continuously. Trees growing, branches can be broken or stop growing so that the energy can be directed in the other direction and still having the passion. And the result is that there may be a consequence of not meeting other people's expectation. It's kind of like, sounds like I'm self-justifying, but I thought now that my contract with my clients when I worked as a consultant about the organizational change, usually the agreement is 1 page, but basically saying I can quit or they can quit anytime they want. Because the circumstances, the progress may change. So I think I'm applying that. It may sound perhaps a little bit egocentric, perhaps, if you look from some other point of view. But I have to take it. I have to find my way to make the most, with the idea of may whole beings be happy. I think I captured the essence. I had some other thought, but that's good enough for me to summarize, because this is a continuous process. And I'm just using this opportunity of my way of being, including in this condo and whatever to follow, and whatever I'm doing with this platform, YouTube, some thought pieces, but rooted from the core by being with sincerity, truth, and truthfulness, with the passion as a centerpiece, so that I can move on, not with much doubt, but with confidence, with no mind, no self, but rooted from the core of my being. It's natural. I change and my memory fade, my skill would change. I just have to accept it and utilize the best I can, with even the thought of may all beings be happy. So, long story, 26 minutes. If anybody listening here to this point, please send me some comment. I'll be happy to read it. I just don't want to be just talking to myself. This is a platform on YouTube to share ideas and communicate. Thank you. And may all beings be happy.